From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBIC, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I hope you are feeling the same. And it is Tuesday, September the 12th, 2023. And man, we are just moving along with this year. And man, oh man, we got so much to talk about today. After a crazy night last night in the NFL to end week one, we have ourselves our first significant injury of the season as well, too. So let's go ahead and jump into what actually happened last night. Jets pull off comeback win in OT to win opener 22-16 versus Bills, but lose Rodgers for the season. Now, losing Rodgers for the season is so big, so critical, so huge, and pretty much it's not the nail in the coffin, but this offense thought that it was going to be high-powered, a very efficient offense throughout the season, and now it looks like that they're back to square one, and it looks like Zach Wilson is going to get his job back. It was supposed to be mentor, protege somewhat this year with Aaron Rodgers being there, showing him the ropes and showing him how to be a successful quarterback in the NFL by doing it by example. That was what somewhat of the plan was, and Aaron Rodgers was very happy to be the mentor of Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was happy that Aaron Rodgers was his mentor. So last night when Zach Wilson got in the game, as usual, everybody had written him off, threw him away, all that good stuff. But Zach Wilson, I hate to tell you guys this, he's actually a winner, and he has a winning record in the last two seasons as well, too. Let's all remember when the Jets were in a playoff position, majority of those wins were recorded by Zach Wilson as the starting quarterback. And when you look at it, he got about 6 of those wins last year out, the 8 that they had or whatever that they had at the end of the year. But he was a significant part to that. I know his stats didn't show up like that, but he competes. And he tries to go out there and win the game. And when it comes down to getting that significant drive to get you over the top, he's been very successful, just like last night. Well, they went ahead and they did the run thing on him last night. Breece Hall was absolutely tremendous for the Jets. He already had 100 yards over his first 2 carries, and that looks like that's going to be their main source of football right there is the running game. They got Dalvin Cook, they got Michael Carter, and they got Breece Hall, and that's going to be somewhat of a 3-headed monster. They have a defense to where when you have a successful running game, the passing game doesn't need to be the most efficient in the NFL. It just has to be good enough. That's all. And you have receivers that can be over the top like Garrett Wilson. You have another receiver in Lazard who can help him become a better player. And Zach Wilson, yes, you lose Rodgers for the season. That was the big acquisition. That was the big hype going into it. Aaron Rodgers takes the Big Apple, but this was always a situation that was on the table. Aaron Rodgers is 38 years old. He's been in this league for a long time. He has a lot of wears and tears. He's a very tough player. But when you pop that Achilles, that literally is pretty much a career. And at this point, it looks like it's a career. But I know he's going to come back because they're begging him to come back. And that's not the young quarterback or anything like that. But the media, the fans, all that stuff, they feel like it won't be right if Aaron Rodgers doesn't get an opportunity to show us what he has outside of Green Bay. But I truly do feel that Aaron Rodgers is trying to compete with somebody that he can never catch, and that's Tom Brady. And I truly feel that He has to understand that it was already over with in Green Bay last year. But this pretty much goes ahead and cements that Father Time is undefeated. I want to see Aaron Rodgers make a great comeback and everything like that, but I don't want to keep seeing the Jets making everything about him because it's not about him. At the end of the day, it's about the other 53 that are still there. And they're going to have to step it up, and they're going to have to really be able to complement this great defense. This is a walk with me defense. They don't have to do much. They just have to get 17 to 24 points a game, and they're in those ball games. It's that simple. The defense knows that they are going to have to be the calling card for this team. So it's going to be a lot of fun moving forward this season when you see what the situation is for the Jets. So with that, we move forward to our next topic, and that's going to be the most popular story in all of sports, and that's going to be the Colorado Buffaloes football team, who is now jumped to number 18 in the nation. Are they on upset alert, though, against rival Colorado State? You know, Colorado State is a team that has always been a thorn in Colorado's side, just like they've been the thorn in Colorado State side. This is a arch rivalry right here. This is a rivalry that is intense. This is for the state of Colorado. These are the two most important teams in the state of Colorado, not named the Denver Broncos. And pretty much you got to pick a side. You got Colorado State, which is in Colorado Springs, which is a much bigger city and a much bigger, metropolis and things like that for the mountain state of Colorado. Then you have Boulder, a beautiful area that is all based on the college that's around it. And funny thing is, now they got some consider one of the greatest athletes to ever step on a football field and possibly a baseball field in Deion Sanders. But we all see that Deion Sanders has the mind of a football genius. This is why he was such a talented, top-rated player throughout his whole time in high school, college, and the pros. And Deion has always been a very flamboyant personality. He's somebody who does not mind speaking his mind. He's somebody that doesn't mind going at the top dog of everything, and he's somebody that loves to prove people wrong. Well, 2 weeks in a row, he's proven all the skeptics, all the experts, he's proven them very wrong. Even though a lot of people are in support of Deion, he has just as many haters as well too. And they felt like last week, Nebraska's defense is going to be good enough and they'll figure out a way to win this rivalry game and upset Colorado. The game wasn't even close because Nebraska doesn't have a quarterback that can really do anything to affect the Colorado Avalanche that's hitting the NCAA. So that was really a game that we all knew that was going to wind up being a showcase game. Even myself, I had Nebraska early in that spot, but then I told myself come about Thursday, Friday, come on, let's not give the books some charity money because we know that Nebraska is going to figure out a way to mess this game up, even if it's close. And you know what? I don't see it being close after what they just did to TCU, a team that just played in the national championship. Yes, I even said that was not the same team from the national championship, but TCU will wipe the floor with Nebraska. And that's pretty much proven. And that was proven in that game. And that's why Colorado is legit. They're for real. They're here. They don't have those same guys that went 1-11 last year. Those guys are not on this team anymore. If they do, it's only 2 or 3 of them. And they're probably bringing Shedeur and Travis Watercups. Okay? So don't sleep on this Colorado team, but they are walking into a landmine because you cannot just look at Colorado State and say, okay, we're going to walk all over Colorado State. Colorado State might be the most motivated team in the nation because they have not even been mentioned as a team that's a threat to anybody this year. Yes, they played Washington State early in the season, and Washington State had their way with them. But that's a good learning lesson for this team because when you look at it, they've played just as good a talent or better than Colorado. So they're prepared for this game. in all senses of the word, because we know that Colorado would be a dog if they play Wazoo next week in the same situation in Wazoo. But this game was in Colorado Springs from what I'm seeing. But still, at the end of the day, this is going to be a game that you can't just say, okay, they're going to walk all over them. It doesn't work like that. You got ESPN in the house. They're going to be on campus Saturday. And that's usually a omen for a game that can go any way it wants to go. I've seen so many teams with so much hype going into a game, and they absolutely come out flat because they have to do all the engagements, they have to do all the interviews, all that good stuff. And can Colorado stay focused? Because now they have a lot of new fans, they have a lot of new expectations. They're not looking at this team to just squeak out games. They want to see them absolutely crush teams and have Dion have these epic press conferences as well too. So we are on the good foot, but you have to be ready for anything to happen Saturday. When you're playing an arch rival, all bets are off. So with that, let's go ahead. We move forward. Let's go ahead and talk about the NBA. The NBA is having themselves a bit of a power struggle right now. I say this because now we have it to where the owners, the committee, everybody has came together and said, you know what? I'm losing way too much money on these guys not playing. Or I got way too many fans writing me letters about players not playing but not being hurt. And this is something that became a new trend in the NBA to save the superstars from long workloads and from injury, and to kind of cater to guys who have significant injuries that can't play every single night, that they can still play basketball, but they just can't play a full 82 in a season anymore. They have to get a week of rest, a few days of rest. But some teams have abused this loophole in the NBA, benching every single star on the team or every starter on the team because you want to rest everybody. And I totally understand a fan's gripe, the owner's gripe. You can't rest everybody. That's just not, don't do that. Because what you do is you kind of throw off the chemistry of the team. And if you notice it, the teams that don't do all this managing of the resting and all that stuff, they are the better teams in the NBA right now. Denver did not have any issues like that last year. When Jokic was out, he was hurt. When Murray was out, he was hurt. You know, it wasn't like the Lakers where you got LeBron and it's a back-to-back and he has to sit out the next game out because he's old. It's not like AD where you have this knee injury and you don't want to keep things, you know, prolonged, so you have to get a day of rest after you play in a back-to-back situation. And this has became a real problem because a lot of fans will want to see the draws of the NBA. They want to see LeBron James. They want to see Kevin Durant. They want to see Stephen Curry. They want to see these guys play when they come to their town. But I understand where a general manager and a coach are coming from as well, too, in this situation. Look, we got to go over here to Oklahoma City or someplace like this. And yeah, Oklahoma City is killing it. They got a superstar. They got a young team with a whole lot of promise and everything like that. But say it's a Tuesday night or something of that nature, and Oklahoma State's on a losing streak at this moment in time. Our team is cruising. We're doing pretty good. But you know what? A guy played 42 minutes for me last night. And you know what? I feel like he needs to get some rest tonight because he might do something that will prolong an injury or something like that to where we can't afford to lose this player. So let's go ahead and give him a break for tonight because this is a very winnable game. And possibly I want to evaluate this guy that's on the bench right now to see if he's worth our time. And I get that part, but you're going to have to be fair to the people that pay for the seats to watch you play because they want these star players at these games. You know what I mean? You're not going to sit out the New York Knicks game at the Garden if you're not hurt. So why can't you sit out the game? So you shouldn't have to sit out the game in Orlando either. That's the thinking that they have. They just don't want them to abuse it. It's not that they're going to suspend players or anything like that. You just have to deal with monster fines now. And that's the one thing that will get people to stop doing it, is when you start taking money out of their pockets. And they are talking about big numbers. Like, if you're a second violator, it's $250,000. If you're a third time violator, we're going to take a cool $1 million there. They're literally saying that you're not going to control our league. These players play when we want them to play, straight up. And this is to appease their new partners, sports betting, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the Caesar Bets, so they can stop getting the complaints from the bettor that these games are rigged and that you guys are cohorting this to make sure that bettors can't get an advantage and all this other extra mumbo jumbo that means absolutely nothing. The NBA teams could care less who wins on a damn spread ticket or a money line ticket. All they want to do is make sure that they're protecting their assets. That's it, and that's all. But the NBA has to appease the people that are throwing them billions of dollars right now. And that's the gambling services, and that's the TV people as well too. You see the NBA right now is going to the highest bidder when it comes to TV rights within it for the next decade or so. They're leaving ESPN soon. So they're trying to make themselves as desirable as possible to the next TV network that wants to invest in the NBA, because this is going to be about a 10, 15-year commitment to the NBA. I know that's a long time, but usually we do this thing. They go around twice with these deals. And from what I'm hearing right now is the NBA is willing to open themselves up to several different platforms, such as Apple TV, such as going back with NBC, that has been in large demand for a long time. Also, keeping TNT and TBS still intact within your situation as well too. And then also adding in, say, Amazon. And some of these more upstart networks that are trying to get themselves in the mix. They saw exactly what the NFL has done, and they're ready to go ahead and sell different games and different events to different networks. And they have to look very attractive doing it. And that means that you have to have your players on the court. So that's pretty much what I'm getting, and that's my 2 cents on this new NBA rule. Is it something that's going to be effective? I think so. I think that this is a good rule for the new wave of players that are coming in. You know what I mean? This is to show guys like LeBron, KD, Curry, that time is running short, and we don't want you abusing your right to be in the NBA by not playing when you're absolutely healthy. You know, we know getting old is inevitable, but we cannot hold up the league, and we cannot dissatisfy our fans. It's that simple. So with that, we move forward, and it's time to talk some boxing. And it's about to get a little heated, I guess, for some of you, because I don't play the favorites game. I don't play the promotional favorites game. I don't do any of that. I'm an actual boxing insider, a media member, somebody of that nature. So I have to have the fair assessment of all this stuff. And from what I can see here, the WBC ordered a fight. They've been ordering fights for the last 2 years. Has anybody really taken them seriously except for Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder? Because you have to understand the WBC will get forceful with a heavyweight fight because they know the money that's behind it. They're not going to get that forceful with a lightweight fight. And I know a lot of you guys are like, yeah, no, they won't. Because lightweight fights do not produce the same amount of money as a heavyweight championship fight does. It doesn't produce the same amount of money as a middleweight championship fight does. It doesn't produce the same money as a welterweight fight does. Most fights that are in the lightweight division are not pay-per-view worthy when it comes to the actual scheme of things, because the division's not a pay-per-view division in reality. It's a division that's a bridge division to get you prepared for a guy who's going to be in these middle divisions later on in his career. Usually it's the beginning of a guy's career, not the end of their career. And the lightweight division has become a hotbed for a lot of the big talent in boxing, and that's rightfully so. 130 through 140 has been absolutely tremendous for the last few years. But 135 has become somewhat of a glamour division because they have the biggest names in the group. You got Tank, you had Ryan and Tio, they're now at 140. You got Haney, who's moving to 140. You see, there's a little trend going there. All the big names that were at 135 are now going to 140. Guess who's entered the chat? Mr. Shakur Stevenson. And the only person there that makes it a glamour and big time division is Tank, because Tank is the biggest star in boxing right now. A lot of you guys don't want to believe it, but he is. He's a draw. He doesn't need to fight for championships. He just needs to show up at an arena and everybody's showing up right behind him, because they got to see if Tank's going to put this guy's lights out or if this guy's going to put Tank's lights out. That's how it goes. He has mastered that portion of his boxing journey. These two that are pictured have not. Okay? So when you get to this fight, there's going to be rumors that Frank turning the fight down. Shakur lowballed him. They're not in charge. The promoters are in charge. Top Rank and TGB are not cool at all. But they're willing to do business with each other if it makes sense. And this fight for both of these promotions did not make sense. They're not going to come out and tell fans that. But if you understand the game of boxing, you know that's exactly what happened. They had to tell the WBC, we're going to come up. We came up with the agreement. They had already said they're not going to do the fight. So that's how they avoid the purse bid. They made it seem like the fight was a go. They were offered a certain amount, and the promoter for Frank Martin looked at this and said that it was not time for Frank to have this fight because it's just not time. This isn't even about Frank being scared, Shakur being the biggest, the boogeyman. This is more about timing, and the timing is not right for either guy, because if either guy loses, then they have to go back down to the bottom of the food chain. It doesn't matter what you people say. You're not going to consider them in the top group anymore. You cannot risk your movement at this moment to have this fight. You have to wait. And Frank Martin is kind of jumping the line at this point, but Shakur is kind of jumping the line as well too. They're both very talented. They're good enough to where if you had this fight for the WBC, everybody would be fairly satisfied with it. But at the end of the day, Frank Martin still needs 2 more fights before he fights in an actual real championship fight to just get him prepared for that big moment. Winning championships and defending championships is a lot tougher than it looks on TV. Shakur has already been a champion before, and Shakur has reserved the right to be able to be the first in line to get a title shot. But I feel with him missing weight a year or so ago and losing the WBC belt on the scale, you got to take a few steps back, because literally you embarrassed the sanctioning body when you didn't make weight. And so they're giving you this privilege because who your promoter is. If you just were coming in willy-nilly with independent promoter and you guys just fight on ESPN, they would have never even, you would have had to really wait for your turn. But they know that Shakur is a dynamic fighter. He's a great representative for their sanctioning body, and that's why he's able to have some control over this portion of the lightweight title. But they went after a guy they knew they weren't going to have that fight with. The WBC ordered this because they want to get fans excited, because they want to look like the good guys. But they cannot force these guys to fight. Once they say they come up with the agreement, the WBC's out of it on the purse bid part and forcing fights. They can't force a fight because they can always get somebody to pull out. And you can't really force this one because neither one of these guys are champions of that. You're fighting for a vacant belt. And when it came down to the percentages of it, when you're fighting for a vacant belt, it's no 17 and 30%. You got to split it 50-50 because you're both fighting for a vacant belt. So them saying that Frank wanted 50-50 and or he doesn't get the fight, that's not necessarily true. Frank is not going to avoid his biggest payday ever and the opportunity to win a title. That's just not going to happen. What happened is that his promoter told them no. It doesn't make sense for either side. Whenever you got to do co-promotions, you have to make sure you're making some money. And they know they're not going to make any money off of this. This is a fight that should be a pay-per-view fight because of how the market is, but it's not a pay-per-view fight. That's why it's a tough fight to make, because you got to put it at a great venue, but you want to have the pay-per-view be able to subside that great venue and take care of everything. And really, you want to put Shakur in a position to where he has a big super fight. And this fight is more of a up-and-coming tune-up fight. Even though Frank Martin still has a great opportunity to get an upset in a fight against Shakur Stevenson's a man of destiny. Let's keep it real. And Frank Martin's just somebody in the way on his path right now. And instead of putting Frank in the position to where he just came out of a tough fight, then he fights Shakur, and if he doesn't look good, all of a sudden y'all just going to say he's Arrow's boy and y'all hyped him up. Nah, you got to give this guy an opportunity to fight another top lightweight contender so he can truly prove to us that he's championship worthy. Because in his last fight, it wasn't there. I'm going to keep it real. I love Frank Martin. I know Frank Martin. I know DJ. I know all of them. But they'll even admit that it wasn't the greatest performance. And it's something that you say to yourself, if I'm handling Frank Martin, I'll tell him the same thing. No, we're not ready for that yet. We're not going to be a shiny trophy on Shakur's mantelpiece. We're not scared of the dude. We need to be prepared for the dude. That's what it is at the end of the day. And nobody's going to turn down their biggest payday. You guys don't understand boxing as much as you think you do. These guys love to get big money to do fights. They don't care, but they don't want Frank thinking with the man's mentality of an opponent. They want him to already think like a champion. So the fight just doesn't make sense right now for the money people. It makes sense for the fans, but it doesn't make sense for the people that are going to have to put their money up. And that's what it is. And that's what it's going to be right now. So don't lose any sleep over a fight that truly was never going to happen. They just ordered a fight so they could order up some excitement. So then there could be a big disappointment. I know how this game works. And this game is an ugly one. It ain't a pretty girl. It's an ugly, toothless, overweight knife fighter, 2 a.m. So we got to get this thing together. And that's my 2 cents on the Shakur Martin fiasco that's occurring now in boxing. My last words for you. Don't get emotional over fights that were never going to happen. Give it about a year or two, and we'll see them. They're not even going to fight at 135. I guarantee that. All right? So with that, we're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break. And when I get back, it's time to talk some baseball. We got the Dodgers. We got the MLB Tuesday night. And we also got Talkin Tickets coming up as well, too. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Kappa. And I'll be right back at you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the PrimeTime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. So let's go ahead, jump into some MLB. We got the Dodgers playing tonight against the San Diego Padres. Dodgers lost last night, though, man. That was just, why, Dodgers? Why? Just why? You know what I mean? But Dodgers lose their four out of their last 5 home games. Man, Padres come back for 11-8 win. What to expect tonight? Well, the Dodgers got Lance Lynn on the mound tonight. That should be a very peculiar situation. They're going against one of the Padres' better pitchers as well, too, tonight. But, you know, the Padres are out of it, but they can still be motivated to beat the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Because that's what their whole goal was, to beat the Dodgers this season, to top the Dodgers this season. Well, they're not going to top the Dodgers in standings, but they can make things really tough on this team as they move forward in the series. Michael Wacha, the good old vet, is going to be on the mound. And Michael Wacha is actually having a good season. If he was on any other team that was not in the NL West, the Dodgers probably would have made a serious bid at him, especially if he still would have been in somewhere like Boston, somewhere like St. Louis. But Michael Wacha has had a really good year for a guy that's pitching on a bad team. And he's has a 2.99 ERA. Things got a little murky in the last game, but that's fine. He only gave up 3 runs, but he gave up 7 hits that day. He struck out 6 as well, too. He did wind up taking a loss that day, but he's still 11-3 on the season. And when you look at his last 5, he's been a little dinged up in these games, but you know what? He's been able to keep things not too crazy. You know what I mean? But he's been better before. That's the whole thing. He's probably the most consistent pitcher on the staff at this moment. So there's a lot of things that are very interesting about Michael Wacha moving forward in, say, an acquisition of being a legit asset to his pitching, to the starting rotation next year. Just too bad he can't help any teams that are going to be in the playoffs. Now, you have the Dodgers, who have Lance Lynn on the mound, and we all know Lance Lynn pretty much has went back to being bad Lance Lynn again. Lance Lynn had, at one point, when he got to LA, he was able to work in a pretty good ERA from what he was doing in Chicago. So he comes to LA, and he was at one point had a 1.44 ERA. He had only given up 2 runs and 3 starts pretty much to start off his Dodger tenure. And what happened was the last 3 games have been absolutely awful. When we were in Boston, he gave 4 runs on 10 hits. Last week against Atlanta, he gave up 7 runs on 7 hits and struck out 1. And that's been the problem in the last 3 games. He struck out 1 guy. And that's what the Dodgers paid him for, is to be a top-notch strikeout pitcher. He's dropped his last 2 games in a row after starting off 4-0 for the year. So the Dodgers really want to get this thing fixed and get this thing fixed fast. So when I look at everything, You got Freddie Freeman, who is absolutely crushing the ball, trying to win the batting average award this year. He's at 335 at this point. Also, you have Mookie Betts, and Mookie has been an absolute just gem of a player all year. Mookie's 313 right now. He slowed down a little bit, but Mookie's still 313. He's a homer away from hitting his 40th. He already has 100 RBIs on the season. It's just been a great year for Mookie Betts, man. And I know that they're probably going to figure out a way to not give Mookie the MVP, but I think Mookie is the MVP of the MLB this year. I mean, of the National League this year. I know Acuna has the look, the swag, the confidence, and he has a lot of the backing of the people. But let's keep it real, man. Nobody's more important to their team than Mookie Betts. Acuna, if something happens to him, I think the Braves will still be good. If something happens to Mookie Betts, the Dodgers are in absolute trouble. So, all in all, tonight, what the Dodgers need to do is they need to get back into the basics of things. They don't need to worry themselves about having a big colossal win over San Diego. There is no revenge factor here. It's all about getting yourself consistent for the playoffs. You don't want to become a bad team right now. You don't want to become a streaky team right now. You just want to go with the flow and get back your win from last night. You lost the game that you should have won. And tonight you can make up for it. And with that, we move forward to our MLB Tuesday night. We got ourselves 2 double hitters today because some games rained out and everything yesterday. That's going to be the Yankees and the Red Sox, and then you got the White Sox and the Royals. I'm looking at the first game of the day. The Yankees did win that game 3-2, and they had a 3-run 6th inning after being down 2-0 and wound up winning that game. Gleyber Torres knocked in a 2-run single that scored DJ LeMahieu and Higashiyako in that game in Boston today. So they were able to get that win. And right now, the White Sox find themselves up 5-1 over the Royals on the South Side today. So let's go ahead and MLB Tuesday night. We have a lot of really good games, a lot of division matchups, some interleague matchups that are kind of important towards the playoff picture as well, too. And then we got some matchups between teams in different divisions that are playing for some playoff supremacy as well, too, trying to get themselves in the right position or try to make the playoffs. This is one of the most detailed races I've seen in a very long time, and we got so many good teams that are vying for, say, 1 playoff spot, 2 playoff spots, but they're playing great baseball on all ends, and it's been one of the more exciting seasons in the last few decades of the MLB as well, too. Speeding up the game a little bit helped the game immensely. So let's go ahead and look at my first game of the night, and that's going to be the Cardinals and the Orioles. The Cardinals coming to the game 63-81. And the Orioles coming to the game, surprise, 91-52, the best record in the American League. And they are absolutely playing the type of baseball that Baltimore has been craving for probably the last 30 years. But they did have a short little period in time in the late 90s where they were probably the best roster in all of baseball, but they just couldn't beat the Yankees. And now they are in place with one of the best young rosters you've ever seen in baseball. And also, they're doing this without an ace pitcher. If you consider their ace being Dean Kremer, come on, man. Dean Kremer isn't even the 4th in the rotation on the Dodgers most times, even though he was a Dodger and was a part of that deal from the Dodgers as well, too. But the A's have taken their young farm stars and have turned them into very solid MLB role players at this point. They're not superstars yet, but they're high-end role players to me at this point. And this presents an element that nobody else in the MLB has. Some teams have to really rely on one player that gets everybody going. That's not the Orioles. The Cardinals, on the other hand, they're a team that really played below expectations this year. Everybody expected the Cardinals to be one of the better teams in the National League this year. They had the lineup to call to be one of the best teams in the National League this year, but they had one of the worst pitching rotations in baseball as well, too. And they're not getting a lot out of their starter today, who's Adam Wainwright, who's been around forever. and pretty much is on his last legs. He's just doing this to really, show his loyalty towards the city of St. Louis and to the organization as well too. Then you have the Orioles today. They're sitting pretty. They still got to hold off the Rays, but they can afford to lose. They're still, it looks like, 2.5 games ahead of the Rays, but they still have to keep them at bay, even though they won the season series, even though they have showed that they're the better team this year. They still have to hold on because the team still hasn't been swept this year. They haven't lost. I don't know when the last time they actually lost the series. I have to look that up. And also you have a team that they're not going to be putting anybody on the bench. They're trying to get these guys as much playing time as possible so they can get the experience. But I feel like you are going to have to give these guys a rest for a few days as we get to the final weeks of the season. I know Baltimore is just looking forward to clinch, and it's only a matter of time before they do. They're already up the right amount of games in the playoff race and in their division race. And Tampa Bay right now is pretty much the number one wild card team. They're up 9 games over the Blue Jays. Blue Jays got a tough one today with Texas, so it's going to be a very, very fun game here. But you know what? I know that one team really does need to get themselves a win, but they may put a little bit too much pressure on themselves today. Cardinals ain't got nothing to lose, man. And I feel like with Adam Wayne right on the mound, you always have to give yourself a chance, especially when he's a dog. And I know he's in the twilight of his career, but I'm going to give the old dog a shot here. And I'm going to take the Cardinals as the bet us dog of the day. And that is going to be the play right there. And that dog bet from what I have on our card is plus 155. So with that, we move forward and let's go ahead and jump into our next game, which is going to be the Twins and the Rays. This is a possible playoff matchup as well, too. So in the grand scheme of things, you have a Rays team 89-56, Twins team 75-69. The saddest part for the Rays is this. The Rays are so ahead of teams in the Central and in the West in the AL that it's pretty sad that this team is still going to have to be a team that actually has to play for, a wild card spot. If they really do the rules the right way, like the NBA and everything like that, you should have the Rays as a 2 seed because they've earned the right to do that. But they will have to get it the long way. It's that simple. They're just going to have to do it the long way. And they're going to have to play whoever the 5th seed is, possibly Toronto, possibly Texas, and possibly the Mariners. But they're going to have to be ready for that because the Rays, I feel like, are going to be a really tired team when we get to the playoffs. The Twins, I don't know if I feel the same way about them, but if they can just put things together the right way and look at their team as, say, a 3 yards in a cloud of dust team and rely on their pitching and just get enough runs in the playoffs, they should be able to make a little bit of a run and possibly steal the pennant. I really like the Twins pitching staff going into this playoff scenario. You know what I mean? But tonight in this game, I feel like what we do here is we got a really good pitcher on the mound tonight with Joe Ryan for the Twins. And I feel like what we do here is we play this one for a big hit tonight. And the big hit tonight is going to be the run line at -1.5. So I'm taking the Twins tonight at -1.5, and they are going to get plus 160 on that deal as well, too. And let me make sure I have this all the way right for you. But, yeah, the Twins are the home team tonight. Rays are the road team. Sorry about how the graphic looks. But, yeah, all in all, I'm taking the 1.5. I feel good about the Twins tonight. I feel like the Twins are in good shape. Joe Ryan's a hard thrower, and he pitched very well in his last game against the Indians. Even though he had to leave early, he still had a good game against the Indians, and he also pitched very well against the Rangers back-to-back, and that's a possible playoff team. So he's answered the question moving forward. Is he capable of being a clutch pitcher for the Twins? And he absolutely is. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward to our next game. And that's going to be this. That's going to be the Cubbies visiting Denver tonight. They play against the Colorado Rockies over at the classic Coors Field. Let's see how many home runs they hit tonight, huh? The way I got this one setting up, though, I don't need a lot of runs. I just need them to get enough runs. You know what I mean? So I'm looking at this one, how I got it set up tonight. I got the Rockies actually with the +1.5. I say this because I feel like now the Cubs can get a little stage fright now because now they're kind of comfortable. They're in a good position. They're the second wild card team. They got a lot of great things going on for their team. They came all the way back. This team at one point was just a couple games ahead of the lowly St. Louis Cardinals this season. They even had a point in time where they had to chase the Pittsburgh Pirates of all teams. And then they had to deal with the fact that Cincinnati was a better team than them the first 3 out of 4 months of the season. Then all of a sudden we got close to the All-Star break, and Cody Bellinger remembered that he was an MVP in this league. Cody Bellinger remembered he was a superstar with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Cody Bellinger remembered that he was an all-star with the Dodgers. Cody Bellinger remembered that he won a World Series, and that is now transferred over to this group. They believe in themselves, and I told you guys, 30 teams in 30 days. If anybody can go ahead and be tricky and win a division and nobody sees it coming, it's the Cubs. Because when you looked at their roster pound for pound, it was probably the best roster in the division. And I said, this is a redemption roster. This is a roster that said, you know what? Teams threw us away. Teams said that we weren't stars anymore. Team said that, you know what, you're not worth the price of admission. Even though you're talented, you're just not worth the price of admission for us. And guys like Marcus Stroman have stepped in and been marvelous. Guys like, I just mentioned Cody. He's done great as well, too. And then you got a guy like David Ross who can relate so well to these players because he was a toss-around player for a long time in his career. I know. He was on the Dodgers, and the Dodgers quietly got rid of him. He went to Cincinnati and really started his career after that. So it happens. It's going to be a process sometimes. But the Cubs have the right veterans that you can manage that can put you in position to be a playoff team. And the Cubs are right there at the precipice of this as well, too. And they're the only team that Milwaukee's having issues turning away. So this is going to be a really good game tonight, but I feel like Colorado keeps the game really close. Colorado is the worst team in baseball, okay? Well, not the worst team in baseball, but the worst team in the National League, okay? And they don't have a lot of bright spots. So tonight, I feel like they're going to play with some effort. Why? Because you're going to have about 25 to 30% more fans in the building because they're going to be there rooting for the Chicago Cubs. So that should give you more motivation to go out here and keep this game very, very close so you can keep your hometown crowd very, very, very happy and keep me very, 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 very happy. So with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take our final break of the show. And when we get back, we got your favorite subject, my favorite subject, and that's talking tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, here we are. Let's go ahead and jump into the final quarter, the final segments of the show today. Let's go ahead and get into talking tickets. You guys already know this is where I deliver the winners at, and yeah, sometimes the losers as well too. But I always give you guys high value, and I always say single what you like. You don't have to parlay it. You can take your absolute favorite play off there and just go ahead and hammer it. Or you can go ahead and take this small risk to get a big reward. I'm just over here trying to help you enjoy your betting experience. All right, so up first, as usual, primetime pick six, 65-1, big ticket today. $20 gets you $1,300. So does that sound good to make a $1,280 profit off 6 teams covering? Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can get the cards home as our dog of the day, plus 155. We also have the under 8.5 with the Braves and the Phillies. So hopefully we can get that home today as well, too. Take advantage of a good pitching matchup. Then we got the Mets minus 115 going against the Diamondbacks today, and a must win for the Diamondbacks, and in a game where the Mets can play spoiler. And I know the Mets would love to play spoiler in Queens tonight. So let's go ahead and see if they can cash that ticket for us with the minus 115. And then we have the over 8 with the Rangers and the Blue Jays. The Rangers and the Blue Jays. This is the game of the night. This should be a good one. I love the number here, over 8. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. Game 2 today of the Yankees and Red Sox. We have the Yankees with the plus 1.5 to keep this game close. I know I'm overspending on a team to only lose by 1 run today if that happens. But what I'm saying to myself is I'm using this insurance just in case this game doesn't go the way that it's supposed to go. But we all know that it's more of a game where you can still bet the money line because the money line is not that high. Money line's never that high when spread is that high. So if you want the money line, take it. But I'm just trying to play a close game. I know I'm overspending for that a little bit, but it's called paying for the insurance. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. Hopefully the insurance gets covered tonight. So we have the last team on our group tonight, and that's going to be the Twins. As I said before, I trust the Twins tonight to win this game by 2 or more runs, and that's where I'm going with this. So I like the plus 160 tonight, and this is going to give us a hefty 65-1 ticket. You put $10 on this bad boy, it's $650. You put 5 on it, it's $3.25. So you know what? You're not spending that much money to make some money. So let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. Small risk, big reward. All right, the final plays of the night. The MLB Late PK4, 14-1. This is a very valuable ticket. We got White Sox minus 130 tonight. We got the Rockies plus 105 to just keep the game close. We don't need them to win. They can just keep the game close. That's all we need them to do. And then we have the Giants, who I have winning by 2 or more runs tonight. I like them with the plus 120. I feel like they have pretty much put themselves in playoff mode. And the Guardians have put themselves in vacation mode, in a sense. So I really do like the Giants with the 1.5 plus 120. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. And then we wrap this thing up with the Angels and the Mariners tonight. I love this game tonight because it's a very good pitching matchup that's very under the radar. Pablo Sandoval, one of the better pitchers outside of Tani for the Angels. And then you have Woo, B-Woo. Woo has been really consistent for this team. He's been a very efficient pitcher moving forward, and he's somebody that will give them a great opportunity if they're able to make the playoffs as well too. I need them to do more than make the playoffs, so I need them to win this division, man, because I was so excited when I saw this team at the top of the division, and now they're scraping to get back into the playoffs. So it happens, man. You win 8 out of 10, you're on top of the world. Then next thing you know, you lose 7 out of 10, and you're back to square one. That's the MLB for you, man. And that's been the season for a lot of teams. So with that is a wrap on Talking Tickets. And I thank you guys very much for tuning in today because you're the absolute best and you're rocking with the best. All right. So with that, as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the primetime capper, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.